The story of Blindspotting starts when I was 19. I was putting poetry videos on YouTube after doing the show Deaf Poetry on HBO, and Jess Calder, who's now one of the producers on Blindspotting, reached out to me in the DMs, and she said, I think the way that you write will really translate well to film. And so you get the message like that, and you sort of think it's a joke. But we met, and we spent a lot of time together, and we conceived of this movie that had verse as a major sort of through line for it. And then David's involvement came in about a year or two later, and myself, Keith Calder, and David just decided this was the kind of movie that we all wanted to make together. Art is essential when a society is having a moment of deeply contrasting opinions and beliefs, and we need nuance to the conversation, and we need things to point at to go, that's how I feel, that's what my reality is, that's the thing that the other side doesn't understand, and vice versa, right? So I think because we are at this intersection of extremes in this country, we look to art to give us a point of reference for where the conversation needs to start or where it needs to go. So I think we were very fortunate and very excited to make something that we felt like potentially could further the conversation. Miles is a lovable troublemaker. He's a fiercely loyal father trying to figure it out, and unsure what to do with his unrest and anger, and going through a growth moment of his own, sort of unaware of it, and trying to be loyal to his best friend and do what's best for his family, and not always seeing the right move, but always trying to do what's right. He's racing home for this, the third to last night, and he's running late, and he's just trying to get there, and he's just avoided another moment where his best friend Miles could have gotten him into some trouble, and he's kind of doing the classic, like, whoo, dodged another bullet, and no pun intended, and and he witnesses a fleeing black man, roughly around his age, get gunned down by a police officer in what feels like an unnecessary use of force. We don't really know the circumstances whatsoever. We just know that someone is fleeing and screaming, "Don't, please don't." And we see a police officer end that person's life. It's this very intimate moment between a police officer and Colin, and this quickly disappearing third character. And this is sort of the catalyst moment that launches us into the meat of the film. Colin and Miles are, we tried to create two very new characters that I don't think we've seen in film before, but based in the same way, the same sort of classic, lifelong friend dynamic, where one is more reserved and one is a little more wild, and one's the instigator, but a lot of times we don't see those characters sort of come barreling towards each other. They're usually sort of faced with an external thing, and it tests a small aspect of their friendship, but it's not. They sort of walk away and come back together. And I think what we tried to do with them was go, let's let the high stakes of the conversation of this country happen to them in a very real, grounded, person-to-person way, and watch how they sort of survive and navigate that. And so they're glued together like family, because they're some of the closest family they've ever known. But at the same time, they're responsible to each other's growth as people, and to each other's well-being. And they both are just trying to do what they think is best for the other. But these few days are going to test every fabric of that friendship. No, Colin is played by my best friend in the whole world and a brilliant actor, rapper, musician, writer, David Diggs. And David, I think, was always the in my mind the best person to play this character, because what I think David sort of exudes as an actor is this universal relatability that not everybody has, and this is a subject matter that really really polarizes the country. And so if we're trying to channel empathy, if we want people to see somebody's perspective, then we needed somebody to embody Colin that everyone could relate to. I think it would be arrogant of any film to say that it had a particular agenda or message, because art is about interpretation. But I do think that the film has a very specific question, which is, what do you see when you watch this? And I think the thing that we love the most is, even with the limited people that have seen it so far, everyone sees it differently. Everyone perceives Officer Molina differently. Everyone perceives Colin differently. Everyone perceives Miles differently. And who is Val and who is Ashley? And I think the question of the film is what do you see? And then a long pause to give you a second to see if you've seen it all. That's the prompt.